Hi friends, today we're going to go through the 7 stages of spiritual awakening. Now this video is for you if you feel like you are going through something right now and you're feeling a lot of anxiety, depression, if you feel like your life just kind of got plopped on its head, or you're feeling some sort of crisis. And sometimes when crisis becomes an opportunity, you can't tell unless you zoom out. So today we're going to zoom out and go through the 7 stages of spiritual awakening so that you can start to identify what stage you're on and how you can navigate it. So the first stage is generally what we call the chaos stage. Now, this is where something happens in your external environment that changes the circumstances around you drastically, and it makes you feel really triggered. This is generally something that happens to you outside of your control, like a health crisis, losing your job, or someone breaking up with you. For me, this happened when I lost all my jobs in one day during the COVID pandemic. Everything was going smoothly. I had my dream jobs, and then all of a sudden, without warning, whap, I just got flipped on my head and it felt totally out of my control, and when I started going into chaos. Now, with the next stage, it's called the spontaneous questioning stage. You start to wake up and start to think like things like, there has to be more than this. You start feeling very lost, and you start having an internalized pressure to move in a different direction than you have previously. And for me, this looked like living somewhere different. I felt like I had done everything. I'd studied with all the great teachers. I had been to every gathering. I had gone on every single hike in town, and everything was so known. And I was starting to feel dissatisfied with all the known because I felt like it wasn't exciting anymore, and I felt the need for excitement in my life. So you could be somewhere like this, or it could be about your relationship, or it could be about your job, or it could be about anything else. But there's this internalized pressure in the spontaneous questioning stage where you start to wake up and you start to question things that had felt settled before. Now, the third stage is called the Great Purge stage. Now, this is a stage where you go through what's called the dark night of the soul. I know you've heard about that a lot of times, and it is tough. It's a really big ego death, and this stage brings with it a lot of growing pains. And what it is it bringing things up to the surface that need to be healed and to help you to release these things from the past. However, it's a very uncomfortable stage of doing it. And during this, you may feel anything ranging from anxiety to depression, even to despair. This is a really important stage to resource yourself with good people, nourishing activities, good nutrition, grounding practices, right? And for me, during the dark night of the soul or the Great Purge stage, it looked like me crying every single day. And at one point, I felt like I was spinning through space, and I didn't have any jobs, and I had 24/7 off because the pandemic made just open space, and I couldn't find my feet, and I felt really scared. During that time, I reached out for help to friends and family and said, hey, I need some community. I refocused on my nutrition. I did a lot of yoga and meditation. And that helped me to progress into the next stage, which was the void stage. Now, if I felt like I was in the void spinning before, I definitely felt like it in this stage. The void stage is where you may feel really tired and overwhelmed and have a real need for introverted time and introversion. You don't really want to go out. It's a stage where your psyche is trying to integrate all that you've learned from the Great Purge and adjust to the new landscape that has been created from purging so much in the dark night of the soul. And it just needs time to integrate, time to be gentle, time to nourish, time to heal. So that's exactly what that looked like for me. When I went through this process, I slept a lot. I even had a lot of judgment around myself that I had to work with around being lazy. But as we all know, we have translated rest in this culture to laziness, and you have to give yourself permission to be nourished by rest in this process, right? And knowing that rest is actually some of the most productive things that you can do for yourself. Now, the next stage is called the bliss stage. Now, that's when things start to get better. You start to have more energy, you start to move a little bit out of the void, and you start to feel deeply intuitive, and your heart starts to open. You start to feel more feelings of feeling blessed, feeling loved. You may start to feel guided by angels or spirit guides or God or spirit. And you start having a lot of synchronicities pop up in your life and good people. And you start tuning into other forms of divine guidance like angel numbers or signs, or you fill that in. I have a feeling you know. And this is what happened for me. I ended up starting tuning into spirit, and spirit started guiding me in all directions, especially when I started asking for signs. Then it felt like it was a two-way street, and I asked for it and I got it. Now, the next stage is the grounded stage. So this is where you have enough time and space and perspective after going through stages that didn't feel so good and felt like a crisis that you'd never get through, and you started knowing that all of the hardship that you go through is actually for your benefit and not to you, at you, right? This is all happening for you. And so at this point, you start feeling a little bit more surrender and trust that everything's going to be okay. That when you go through hard times, things happen for a reason, and that you'll come out of them, and that they'll end up better than ever on the other side. Which is really, really hard to say to you when you're in the chaos stage or you're in the great purge, right? But in the grounded stage, you go through this and you look back and you say, oh, I see why that had to happen. I see, because I needed to grow this way. And so for me, that looked like moving out of a place that I lived for 15 years. And moving, and the upheaval made me move, and the move, it ended up being the best thing for me and led me to a lot of internal peace and understanding why I had to go through so much hardship during that time. So this is the time when you become more spiritually and emotionally mature and you become more able to tune into spirit at any time. So this is where you've started to create conversations between you and your guides or angels or spirits or whatever you want to call them, and you start to have a direct line to source that you can call on at any time and with patience receive answers. Now, the last stage is known as the purpose stage. Now, the purpose stage, this is when you commit to your soul's path. This is when you start to tune in to how you can share your gifts and your blessings for the good of all out of love and out of gratitude and out of humility for being so touched and delighted that you have been touched in this way by spirit. It is such a blessing to have a direct line in this universe when there's so much things changing all around us all the time and everyone grasping for some sense of control. Now, when you have a direct line to source, you start to realize that you don't really have to have so much control. Actually, you don't have so much control, and that's okay, because things are going to change, and you can lean into that emotional and spiritual maturity that you've developed through these 7 stages to relax and trust and surrender. And so with that, you start wanting to share your gifts and talents and share that message to everyone around you. Now, we all have different gifts, and I believe that everyone's gift is different for a reason. We need you to be you and to share your gifts. We need me to be me. And no one else can do anybody else's job. So it's more important than ever that we share our unique gifts. I always think, thank goodness someone is good at being an accountant. Thank goodness someone loves numbers, because that's not me. That's not my gift to share, right? And so we need your light to shine exactly as it is. If you love whatever you love, bring it. Whatever you love that's different from me, bring it. Because that is where the purpose stage comes in. You become devoted to your path, devoted to sharing your gifts and talents, devoted to sharing God's love through you, Spirit's love through you, your divine guidance, and how to help other people tap into their own balance and their own alignment. And for me, that's how I got here. That's why I love doing this. That's why I'm sharing this with you. right? I went through all these stages, and it's important to know that sometimes we go through spiritual awakenings more than once in our life. But the first time we go through it and is definitely going to be the most intense, because we feel like we're spinning through time and space and we don't know what's going on, right? And then the second time we go through it, we recognize, or can consciously recognize, a little bit more of what's happening and feel a little bit more trust and surrender from the beginning. So this is really important. This is really important for you. This is really important for others to go through, so that we can get to this point where we are in surrender, in trust, right? And if you start going through this and you feel like you don't know where you're going, tune back into these stages. Recognize one of these stages, and by recognizing one of these stages, you'll know that this too shall pass, and this is part of your evolution for your evolution. So no matter what's happening, you're exactly where you should be right now, and you don't have to worry, because Spirit has got this. Thanks for joining me on my journey. If you like this video, check out some of my other ones. Like, subscribe, or leave a comment below. I'd love to know more about your journey and what you're up to and where you are. If you're interested in coaching services, check out the link in the description and my website. Many blessings and much love.